Hands in here. Good evening. If you'd all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now I will welcome everyone, since Dr. Matthews is standing up next to me, I welcome you to the December 18th regular meeting of the Novi Board of Education. Do we have any changes? 14th, jumping ahead to Monday. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda, Dr. Matthews?
We did have a change. The athletic presentation will not take place today because it was a snow day, but we will have that presentation in January.
All right, so we will skip ahead to our student board member report, I believe.
Yes, we are.
So, Dr. Matthews.
We would invite you to introduce yourself and give us your student board member report.
My name is Arlen Whalen. Thank you for having me tonight. The Novi Choir concert is taking place tonight, like right now, in the First Auditorium. A special thank you to Mr. Rubin for his efforts this fall, filling in for Ms. Shuri. And then congratulations to Noah Canales and AJ Aurora, who were named to the All-State Choir. Along with that, both the band and orchestra had successful winter concerts this past week. On Tuesday, members of choir, Mr. Scobie's sociology classes, and Novi Student Council participated in Bridgepoint. It was a great experience spreading love and joy at the Academy Americas, and it was a good time to give back, and it was a lot of fun. Best wishes to our 9 Wildcats who are heading to the Michigan Thespian Festival this evening. And our 428-member HOSA team competed in the Region 8 HOSA Leadership Conference a while back. Also, congratulations to Mitchell Wu, a 2017 NHS graduate, on being the recipient of the 2017 AP Scholar Award. The award was given to 2 students in the state of Michigan who have the highest average scores on all the AP exams taken. And then Rock the Box was moved to January 12th. A student survey was sent out to all students. Novi High School encourages all those students to respond to hear about the climate and culture in the school. And then with the Unity and Community event, Spud Club is hosting the United We Stand, United We Stay, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Oratorical Contest and essay contest, and details for that have been sent out in emails to students as well. And then for athletics, as many know, the volleyball team won their 3rd straight consecutive state championship, and they're now ranked number 10 in the country. And winter sports are up and running, so good luck to those athletes. Everyone's looking forward to a good and successful season. Many teams actually get to work out during the Christmas break. The boys basketball team and hockey team actually get to compete, so people should come out and cheer those teams on. And then the athletic program is really grateful to the board and the community for the opportunity to practice over break with such great facilities. And then shout out to Ellie McKay, a senior on the girls basketball team. She scored 37 points against Canton this week, and she has become the all-time leading scorer for boys and girls at Novi High School. So with a little bias, you should definitely come out and see the games and come cheer on. She's amazing to watch. And then with that, the girls basketball team also welcomed Coach CJ Arrow as the new head coach of the program. We're starting out strong. We're at 3-1, and he's doing a great job. But we also wish Coach Bill Kelp the best of luck as he moves on to coach at Hope and in his further career. We miss him a lot. The Novi cheer team competed in the Novi Winter Warm-Up competition last Saturday. The boys swim and dive team is off to a really great start. They're ranked 7th after beating Cranbrook, who was the Division III #1 ranked team, so that was pretty cool. And then last but not least, we'd like to wish a very happy birthday to both Bill Kelp and Brian Gordon tonight. The 2 young men were born on the same day, an hour apart in the same hospital.
No way.
So happy birthday to both of them.
That's hilarious. The hospital has never been the same.
And that is a long report.
Yes. Yeah.
We thank you for being here.
We had to throw it together at the last minute because it's snow day. So
Yeah.
thank you to Ms. Carter and Mr. Gordon for their help on that.
Well, I could have had you in school today if you approved.
Maybe.
Next time we have a board meeting, we'll have to rethink that, I think. Thank you for being here on the snow day. And have you completed your survey yet?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, all right. Well, for all those students that haven't completed the survey, we certainly encourage you to do that. And thanks for being here and taking the time of your evening to be here. Next, we have our comments from the audience related to agenda items. This is the first opportunity for comments from the audience. This is comments related to agenda items only. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to approach the board, we'd like you to fill out a green card and come to the podium. And seeing no one in the audience that is coming forward, we will move on to our next agenda items. These are consent items. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. The consent agenda tonight has approval of minutes from the December 7th board meeting, field trips, the one-act competitive play, and the field trip for the MASC State Conference, which is a student council conference. There was one glitch in the presentation for the student council conference. They will miss Monday, March 26th of school. So.
All right. We do not need this. Oh, Doctor.
Just one quick. There was a typo in the minutes that I caught late, and I apologize for not calling earlier. It's just a typo on the date under the Oakland County School Boards Association bylaws. That the action will come before the board at the December 13th meeting. It should be tonight, which is the December 14th meeting. It's on page 4 of those minutes. It's just a typo.
Okay. We will change that.
Yeah, just a small thing.
Okay.
Okay, I do see that. All right, I would entertain a motion.
I recommend that the Novi Community School Board of Education accept consent items A and B as presented.
All right. Moved by Mrs. Stevenson and supported by Mrs. Hood. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have our action items. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. The first action item this evening is for a series of new course proposals. We will take these one by one. The first one is a medical math course. This was presented by Mr. Brent Polanski, a math teacher at Novi High School, and is proposing a medical math course for students beginning in the fall of 2018 at Novi High School. The Michigan Merit Curriculum requires students complete math through Algebra 2 and have a math-related course or experience during their senior year. Medical math would help students deepen their algebra skills before moving to higher level course and would strengthen these skills in the context of relevant career-embedded math. Currently, there are over 400 Novi students who participate in HOSA, many of whom specifically chose to compete in medical math. This is an opportunity to pair the student interest with math skills that will help them in their future. The anticipated cost for this course is about $5,400. And this came to the board on November 16th, and as information and discussion, and tonight we come for approval. And if you have additional questions, Dr. Weber is here to answer those.
All right. I would first entertain a motion. Mrs. Glowzinski.
That the Board of Education approve the addition of medical math course for students beginning in the fall of 2018 at Novi High School.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Glowzinski and supported by Mr. O'Connor. Is there any further discussion or questions by the board? No? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have our English 12 Literature and Science class.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Ms. Linda Fairlam, Mr. Michael Ziegler, and Ms. Hattie McGuire, English teachers at Novi High School, would like to propose that Novi High School begin offering an English 12 Literature and Science course for students beginning in the fall 2018 at Novi High School. There's a population of students who excel in the sciences and by their senior year have decided upon a career path in one of the sciences. The English 12 Literature and Science course parallels the current 12th grade English. The common assessments require the same skills and meet the same standards, but reflect a scientific focus. The anticipated cost for this course would be about $1,900. And this came before the board on November 16th as well for information and discussion, and comes back tonight for approval. And if you have additional questions, Dr. Weber is here to answer those.
All right, I would entertain a motion. Mrs. Glowzinski.
That the Board of Education approve the addition of English 12 Literature and Science course for students beginning in the fall of 2018 at Novi High School.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Glowzinski and supported by Mrs. Stevenson. Is there any further discussion or questions? Yes, Mr. Cook.
Was this going to take place of an existing section of 12th English 12?
No, in the sense that it would more than likely the projection is it would fill 2 sections of existing 12th graders who are there. So the 12th graders would take that as their ELA option in 12th grade rather than the regular English 12.
So it is basically the head count will shift from English 12 to this.
Other questions? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor of the Literature and Science English 12 class, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have the applied behavioral analysis. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Ms. Jody Minkiewicz, teacher at Novi High School, would like to propose that Novi High School begin offering an applied behavior analysis course for students beginning in the fall of 2018 at Novi High School. Applied behavior analysis, or ABA, is a process of systematically applying interventions based upon the principles of learning theory to improve socially significant behaviors to a meaningful degree and to demonstrate that interventions employed are responsible for the improvement in the child's behavior. The ABA class will provide opportunities for both the general education students as well as the students with autism. Another benefit is that this course will promote compassion and understanding in our high school students and will make them employable soon after graduation. The anticipated cost for this course is about $1,500. This came before the board as information and discussion on December 7th and comes back to the board tonight for approval. And again, if you have questions, Dr. Weber is here to answer those.
All right, I would entertain a motion. Mrs. Hood.
I move that the Board of Education approve the addition of applied behavior analysis course for students beginning in the fall of 2018 at Novi High School.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mrs. Klebzinski. Are there additional questions or comments from the board? Mr. Cook.
These kids are learning interventions to help autistic children, and would this hopefully these students help lighten our load on our parapros that we keep losing in our special ed department?
Yeah, I would say as our numbers grow, as our students with autism grow, having people in our district ready and willing to serve them and kids that could also turn that into a career would be a huge benefit and definitely be a help.
Would we use these kids in our classrooms to help out?
Yes.
Our parapros?
The idea is, when we heard this last week was at the Early Childhood Education Center, that we have a significant amount of students coming in right now that are in need.
Additional comments or questions? Mr. O'Connor?
I have just kind of an overall comment about the next 4 courses. I made a comment of this nature last week. I just want to repeat it as I went through in detail the 4 courses. These to me are really nice to have as opposed to need to have. I just have a concern that these are additions to an already broad group of courses that we have at the high school. And I'm concerned that these are just coming piecemeal and we really don't, from my perspective, have a focus on what we're trying to accomplish with our high school curriculum. Because these are additions, these courses clearly will displace existing courses, and I don't know if that's a good thing. It might be, it might not be, and I don't know what courses would suffer or would not suffer. And from my perspective, I've got nothing against the courses, but for me it's more of a matter of priorities. It's kind of like, our budget development process when we get together. We talk about our budget development, what we'd like to prioritize, and these are just not high priority courses from my perspective. I'd like to see us focus, as I said last week, on more things like the medical, the advanced manufacturing, the robotics, the engineering to develop 21st century careers. Now I understand that some of these have career development in them, but I don't know how that's going to displace other courses. If I can digress for a minute, I just think from a process standpoint, we as a board have been very good at meeting 2 or 3 times in February and March, and we have budget development processes. You haven't been through it, but before we get into that, we get kind of a skeleton budget. We all talk about what we'd like to see added or subtracted during the year, and we have that dialogue during the work session. I'd like to see us begin some kind of practice of doing that with the curriculum. I supported the first 2 because I understand the focus. There's medical math. We've got engineers that need that literature for English 12. But these 4, they're nice, but I just don't see it as a high priority. I just would rather focus our funds on other things. So.
I would suggest that Dr. Weber and the staff at Novi High School has done a good job of identifying the needs that are within our high school and the needs overall within the district. I perhaps have not done as good a job of communicating all of that to the board, but for example, this course was created in direct need for students at the Early Childhood Center. We have an increasing population of autistic students at the Early Childhood Center. This course, our social workers and speech pathologists saw an opportunity to create a course that would give our students experience in a kind of a job-related area, this ABA area, and not only would it benefit the students who take the course, but it would more importantly benefit the students at the Early Childhood Center as they get students who are not only interested in them but skilled in serving their needs. And so I would suggest to the board that Dr. Weber and his team have done a good job of analyzing the needs at the high school and creating opportunities for students as we continue to focus on preparing our students for their life beyond our high school. So I appreciate the suggestion, Mr. O'Connor, that we might need to have some curriculum nights like we do with budget nights, and we can certainly plan those as we move towards the future.
I have a couple questions, and my computer keeps messing up. So is it a year-long course? And if so, is the first semester learning and knowledge, and then the second semester like an internship part?
There's a 40 credit, or I should say a 40-hour certification process that we'll go through, Ms. Stevenson, within that, and then applying what is learned within there. So that would be the idea, is that the coursework, the certification comes in. Certification comes you have to be 18 years old, and then they would actually implement, practice, do.
Is it a year-long course?
Yes.
Okay.
So
And I'm thinking about liability piece.
mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, would they would not be working with them by themselves, correct? They would have an adult supervision there.
Correct.
So they wouldn't be liable if something should happen. I'm just thinking about trying to be proactive.
That is correct.
Okay.
Mrs. Hogan.
Yeah, thank you. I shared Trustee O'Connor's concerns about the course catalog, and my first, when we first started talking about these last week, I was encouraged because I think any additional resources that we can bring to the district to help kids with IEPs seems like a win-win. And for the older students who are going through these classes, we have set a goal, or we've talked about emotional growth and how we measure that for our students, and it's something that the district is focusing on. But I did have the concern about the expanding course catalog, so I did call Dr. Weber briefly this week. And because that, in any organization, when you add things, it's tough to stop doing things. And so I think it would be a good exercise, and I think his team does that, to see which classes are losing enrollment and maybe cut those back. But I had the same concern that, pretty soon there are so many classes, how do kids choose? But just to wrap that up, I do support these. I think they are a good addition to our catalog and give kids options to really expand their give them more exposure to other kids.
Okay. And Mr.
Yeah, Dr. Matthews, and I know, and thanks for addressing this. I share the same concern that Mr. O'Connor had. Board generally has a big responsibility with curriculum. That is one of our responsibilities. So going forward, as you said, I really do hope there's more board engagement in this process.
Yeah, I put a tremendous amount of faith in our teachers. When I look at the moves that have been made in our Atlas Rubicon work in being the first district in the state to have a public or a parent database to search that, when I look at the performance gains measurably in the last 7 years, Coming from 2010, we were in the top third basically in things like science, social studies, ELA, and now being at the top of the county 3 through 11 for the past 3 years in a row would indicate that the work that our teachers have done in not only choosing curriculum, making curricular moves within that has been exceptional. And so any way to help educate the board on that great work and having time with you would be something not only that I would welcome, but I think our teachers would probably welcome as well. The true curricular experts in this district, in my mind, are the people who teach the classes and are with our kids. They're the ones who deliver on a daily basis. They're the ones who, when we look at these courses, you'll see that it's a teacher that brings these courses or teachers who bring these courses forward. They, being with our kids every day, seeing what the need are and so on, bring these forward to the board for consideration. Dr. Matthews and I basically shepherd this process through, help you all to have all the information that you need. I know we presented the board with a very detailed spreadsheet on costs and other things as well around this. So we would definitely welcome a conversation around curriculum of depth, that we weren't rushed, that people didn't feel it was too much time to listen to or take time to listen to. I would love that. Because the teachers that we have in this district, what they've brought forth, at least in my time here, has been nothing short of exceptional. I've had the pleasure of serving in a few other places, and the teachers that we have here are really lights out incredible. I know Dr. Matthews had a coffee yesterday, with 2 of our science teachers and parents, and we talked about that briefly before we came in here, and just wonderful. So the more of those folks that you guys get to meet and engage with, I think is good for the whole community.
Mrs. Klubzinski?
Just a couple comments. First, specifically about the class that we're talking about, I have a family member that's an early childhood mental health behavioral therapist, and listening to the description of the learning these students are going to have, I think it extends beyond somebody that would have the autistic classification to just in general with children as they're learning how to socially get along in a group and share and not have as many temper tantrums and whatever. I can see the benefit to them learning these skills and applying them in a variety of areas, not necessarily just in that single room at the preschool. And consequently, as they start thinking about what they want to do in their career development, they'll get a better idea if that age group they're interested in serving and what opportunities they might have, because they're going to meet the social workers and the other professionals there. So I look at it beyond just the certification, which I think is awesome, but just in learning how to deal with individuals. So I think it's a great opportunity.
And Ms. Klubzinski, to that point, the classes of the ABA class, the peer-to-peer and the peer writing are both what you would say in your explanation there is like double wins in the sense that there's the student who gets served, and then there's a student who's doing the serving and learning about other doors that may be open for them in their future. So those 3 classes actually are serving 2 kids, if you will, at the same time.
Yeah,
and that's great.
Yeah, I think it's just my second point. Well, I think it's about emotional growth, and those are great opportunities to grow personally too, and in their leadership skills. The second thing is, when we revisited our goals this fall, our goal number 2 was modified to say that we want to enhance opportunities for students in our district. And I think that these 4 classes that were all 6 actually, increase opportunities for students, and that's what we really want to do. And I would like to believe or ask that in a year, after these classes have run, we get a report back to the board. You know, how many students, what's the feedback we got, where did we see attrition in other classes? I think we want to be dynamic, right, and leading edge, and having a breadth of opportunities I think will be attractive to people that are looking at our high school in terms of where they want their student to finish out and graduate from. So I support all of the opportunities that are before us.
All right. Any additional dialogue
Is
on
everybody
the,
ready?
pardon?
As long as everybody's had, I got a couple more questions. If everybody else
On
is
the
ready.
applied behavioral analysis?
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Weber, you were able to state in the English 12 literature and science that we would probably have a couple of sections. For the medical math, you've picked out that we have an opportunity at 400, a large number of our 400 HOSA students that have chosen medical math, and so we have an idea that we're going to have some full classrooms there. But this one, you mentioned that it was brought forth by the need that you see at the ECEC. Do we have any idea what the take rate might be? And to Mr. O'Connor's point, what classes might be suffering because of this?
So when we talk about classes suffering, I think the piece is ultimately we want to give our kids choices and the opportunity to take classes that are good for them. We've had classes fall off our course schedule due to a lack of interest. The threshold that we use at the high school is a trigger right now, and Dr. Matthews, correct me if I'm wrong, is 20 as far as being our threshold. So Mr. Cook, if you all vote for ABA to go and it goes, but we don't have a number to fill that, then we simply won't run it. If that number exceeds that and we have that, then we'll make sure that we build it in there. And that's part of the difficulty as a former high school principal as well of scheduling a high school, is that when you have your schedule built on student choice, then you're juggling those different balls there. So I don't have a prediction for you on number of sections. When I talked to Linda Fairlam on the ELA part, we're thinking 2, could be 1, could be 3. And Mr. Polonsky, when he was here talking to medical math, he feels that there's a good amount of students that would take that. We'll see when they sign up.
Okay, can I just ask one quick question? Dr. Weber, the applied behavioral analysis is under what department? Is that life skills?
Yes.
Life skills?
Yep.
Okay, which lost quite a few classes a
It
few
did.
years ago.
Right. And really going back into the vein of that particular department and what they do is trying to provide opportunities, like Ms. Klobzinski said, for kids to take a look at what they might want to do with their future as well, and a chance to look at that.
Well, I appreciate the comments about being concerned about that and paying attention to that, certainly. But as I considered our goals and providing additional opportunities, we've cut back on our courses quite considerably since whatever 2009, I'll say, in part due to students not having room in their schedules or lack of interest or whatever. So the fact that maybe we're considering bringing some of these back, some choices back to students, which I think is something that I've certainly heard students asking about, I think is great. I think also having those conversations, like Mr. O'Connor suggested, would be a great exercise for the board to have some of those conversations with teachers about the direction we're heading and what they're seeing, at the high school in terms of the needs of students. So, but I am supportive of it also. So, with that, if there's no additional question, I will call the question on the applied behavioral analysis class. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Next is the peer-to-peer leadership program, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. The Peer-to-Peer Leadership Program is a course proposed by our Novi High School Special Education Department, speech and language pathologists and social workers. The Peer-to-Peer Leadership Program is an elective for students that they would like to begin in the fall of 2018. The peer-to-peer support programs provide critical opportunities to bring together students with a range of needs, and these programs can lead to academic, social, and behavioral benefits for all participants. Students learn to relate to people with different needs and develop an increased understanding of individual differences. Diversity is present in every public school in our nation. We support and celebrate diversity through a variety of instructional support programs, including specialized programs for students with disabilities. Peer-to-peer students act as peer models and mentors and work collaboratively alongside students with IEPs to support active engagement and understanding of the expectations in the instructional environment. The anticipated cost for this course would be zero because it would be led by our social workers and speech and language teachers. This came before the board as information and discussion on December 7th and comes back to the board for approval tonight. And again, Dr. Weber is here to answer questions if you have them.
All right, I would entertain a motion first.
I move that the Board of Education approve the addition of peer-to-peer leadership program for students beginning in the fall of 2018 at Novi High School.
It's been moved by Mrs. Stevenson and supported by Mrs. Hood. Is there additional discussion on this particular program? Mr. Cook?
The ABA course, I can see where you look for the need and you see the need and everything for it. This here, to me, is much more of a want. Yeah, we have students with IEPs, things are written in their IEPs that needs to happen. Would you foresee that something like this be written in the IEP? And if so, it would have to be, the parents would probably have to buy into it. Have we had any discussion with parents of kids with IEPs that something like this would be beneficial? Do you think would be beneficial to their students?
Looking at the success of this across I believe the presentation last week, there are 300 school districts that use this, or 300 high schools that use this peer-to-peer program based out of the start. So the piece I would say there is, I can't answer the direct question if we talk to parents here, but the number of 300 across the state would indicate to me that it's well received from parents in other places. I know that Mr. Kinzer's daughter was a peer-to-peer in, I believe, Okemos. And could you speak to how that works?
So my daughter was involved in a peer-to-peer class with an autistic student as an 8th grader, and it was a life-changing experience for her. So she developed a relationship with an 8th grade classmate. She attended a social studies class with him, sat next to him. They had conversations on their own using technology and over the phone. She supported his homework, and I think it was beneficial to him, but it was, I'm guessing, more beneficial for her. The skills that she developed, and I think just the emotional maturity and development that I saw in her as a participant in a program were impressive, and she's a better person because she was a part of that program.
And to that point, to your question, Mr. Cook, I'm sure that a parent would have to be aware if their student had an IEP that was going to be something that was a service that we were going to provide.
This is a program that we had when I was in Grand Ledge, and it was very well received. And again, it is, we work very closely with our parents of students with IEPs, and this becomes an additional resource for those parents. And the goal is, our goal is to see every student as a general education student first, as opposed to a special education student first. And so this provides the opportunity for us to ensure that these special education students have the opportunity to engage fully in our general education curriculum. And so from our perspective, it is a wonderful opportunity to help these students be successful, and help them be successful with a peer as opposed to an adult who is assigned to them. And so we view it as truly a win-win situation. And again, as Dr. Weber has indicated, the START program is a well-respected autism program out of Grand Valley University, and we believe that the success that they've had in districts across the state would be mirrored here if we adopt this course here in Novi.
Mr. Mendon?
Yeah, sure. So just to be clear, parents of students with IEPs will have an additional form to fill out, and in order to get sign off, for us to get sign off on having other students work with them.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Because there is, clearly there's privacy issues and FERPA issues related to students with IEPs, and so that would be part of the process.
All right. Mrs. Glebzinski?
This is, hopefully this comes across constructively. I would think that as students become more sensitive about the diversity of other students, that the propensity to bully would be reduced, and thus also influence the peers that are in the classroom the appropriate way to treat everybody in the classroom with respect. So I see it even a bigger win than just between the two individuals. And if I've stretched that ideal, I apologize, but I think it's a great opportunity.
I just want to say, as I consider these last 4 courses, obviously we just approved the applied behavioral analysis, it seems to me that they're all interactive-based learning opportunities, and we've talked at this table as well as heard from teachers, and certainly there's a lot in the press these days about kids not engaging and not communicating effectively. And so I appreciate that we're looking for opportunities for that. I know we've talked about it, including social emotional growth in our growth model as well. And it seems to me like maybe there's some opportunity even amongst these individuals to get some gauge of some of that growth as well. So I don't know, there's a lot of pieces to this. I mean, I certainly appreciate that it's in other districts. I guess I'm surprised that we haven't done it until now. That's surprising to me. That if it's that successful in other districts that we really haven't looked at it. So I would be supporting this program as well. Any additional comments before I call the question? Seeing none, all those that want to approve the peer-to-peer leadership program, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Next we have the peer writing consultant, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Ms. Laura Neisel, Ms. Hattie McGuire, and Mr. Michael Ziegler, English teachers at Novi High School, would like to propose that Novi High School begin offering a peer writing consultant course for students beginning in the fall of 2018. The goal of any English department is to produce cogent, articulate, and thoughtful readers and writers. Our goal is to establish a campus writing center that would provide a valuable place where students can not only seek support, but can also develop peer-to-peer relationships over content and subject matter. This course is intended to satisfy the second year of ELA 11-12 bandwidth. Students in this course will have a great deal of choice and independence under the mentorship of the MTSS literacy coaches. The anticipated cost for the course would be just over $1,700. This came before the board as information discussion on December 7th and comes back tonight to the board for approval. And again, Dr. Weber is available for questions.
All right. I will call the question, or I will ask for a motion first. Mrs. Hood.
I move that the Board of Education approve the addition of English 12 peer writing consultant course for students beginning in the fall of 2018 at Novi High School.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mrs. Stevenson. Are there additional questions this evening? Comments? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the peer writing consultant course, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
Motion carries 5-2. Next, we have the incubator. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Ms. Kristen Franchi, a teacher at Novi High School, would like to propose that Novi High School begin offering the incubator course for students beginning in the fall of 2018. This course is designed to immerse students in real-world applications of computer, English, and business skills. Throughout the course, students will not only be guided by teachers, but also by professionals in the field who will serve as thinking partners for the students' work. This course meets the Michigan Merit Curriculum requirements for English credit in 12th grade, senior level math, or an elective, and students will have the choice of one of those 3 for which they will receive credit. The incubator will be exactly what the name denotes: curriculum, physical space, educators, and thought partners working in unison to facilitate a process where students' ideas can hatch into reality. The course will provide them with the opportunity to gain real-world experience. The anticipated cost for this course is about $17,500 plus a possible 0.6 FTE. This came before the board as information discussion on December 7th and comes back to the board for approval tonight. And we again have Dr. Weber to answer questions, and also Ms. Franchi and Ms. Forster, 2 of the 3 teachers who presented to the board last week to answer questions as well.
Thank you for being here. I would entertain a motion first. Mrs. Lubensky.
That the Board of Education approve the addition of English 12 literature and science course.
Oh,
my bad. Sorry.
No, it's incorrect on the form.
Yes,
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Approve the incubator course for Novi High School for 2018.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Glemzinski and supported by Mrs. Stevenson. Any additional comments or questions before Mr. Mena?
Yeah, I will be supporting this, but I do have some concerns that I'd like to share with the board. A small concern, I know last meeting there was some talk about plasma cutters for this and soundproof room. I didn't see a breakdown on cost. To me, those sound like significant costs here that we're not including in the description.
Yep.
So do we have any insight on possibly what that's going to cost?
So it was a laser cutter, not a plasma cutter. And laser cutters, I think, are coming in around $4,000 right now. That was all potential, not wanting to be presumptuous of what the board may vote. Those were ideas that we have to create basically a low-res and a high-res prototyping space within that room, which would require us to build a room if we went ahead with that kids could work in there and it'd be quiet in the other spaces. 3D printers we already have everywhere else. I talked with Ms. Minnick a bit and talked about using bond resources and dollars to fit that room if we needed to or could. And so specifically, I couldn't give you a huge number on that. If I'm going to go into my head of what we've purchased here in the district in the last year and a half, 3D printers about $1,200 a pop, so you're looking at $1,200 there. $3.50 for a laser cutter. Then you're looking at things like Play-Doh, clay, cardboard, really inexpensive things. So I don't have a perfect figure on that. If I was going to ballpark it, materials, 10. I'm not sure how much the space would cost to make.
And as to answer your question a little bit further, Mr. Minna, if the board approves this, which would be in the course catalog, if enough students sign up for it, we would then develop the resources for the course, come before the board with the full cost of the course to ensure that the board is fully aware of the cost as we move forward.
I have a couple more questions if I can continue.
Let's give somebody else a chance if anybody
He has the floor. You finish off.
Okay.
Okay, please. Thank you. Dr. Weber, last week you mentioned during this part of the presentation that this class would take place in room 116. Now that class is currently being used by advanced CAD, so it looks like to me that there's going to be some displacement here. I'm a big fan of CTE classes. I'm just wondering if you can explain what the plan is here. What are we going to do with the classes currently taking place in that room you're looking to take over?
So 123 is another space. Ms. Minnick and two members of the robotics team and Principal Carter, Assistant Principal Baker, Assistant Principal Leclerc, and I walked that entire space last week from 116 to 123. Every bit of it went up in the loft and took a lot. We have so much space back there in which we can utilize. The idea, 116 makes a wonderful space because it's a double-sized room, about 2,000 square feet in there. There's also a storage room in there. 123 has its own phone piece already in that space, right, in that particular space, so that could make an option. With all the space that we have back there, and Ms. Minnick, feel free, you saw it with your eyes as well, I don't think there's any reason that we couldn't find space to have the number of students that are taking courses in CTE. And also really, and I'll speak a little about this in my report tonight, I just went to the library tonight in the Enable event and seeing what modern manufacturing is really looking like. And the discussion that I believe we need to have as a community school district is how do we envision that particular section of our building serving students now and into the future? Are we exposing our students to the things that they are really going to need to know going into the future as we look at autonomous vehicles, as we look at electrified vehicles, as we look at all these things that I know in Mr. Cook's wheelhouse for his professional background? I mean, those things are changing dramatically as well. So I believe we have the space to accommodate anything that we want to move around back there. Is massive. And of course we would do that.
Okay. And then my last question/concern. Well over a year ago, this board came and spoke about the need for a STEM curriculum, and I think the board agreed that that would be definitely a direction we want to go in. We were given a presentation, I think it was back in March.
March 3rd.
We were supposed to, at that point I was looking for something regarding a STEM curriculum. And you introduced B-STEAM to us, and I know that this incubator course is an outgrowth of that conversation that we had, but what I'm still waiting for is some sort of a STEM curriculum that we can hang our hat on in this district. Again, I know that this was coming. I was fully expecting this class to come before us at some point, but there's still this yearning for us to be able to say, hey, as a parent of this district or a future parent of this district, you can bring your kid to this district. And you're going to have this opportunity to learn all sorts of STEM curriculum all the way from early child care all the way through the middle school and up through high school, and I'm still not seeing that plan yet. I'm just wondering when we might be able to see that.
So as we, on March 3rd, and take a look at what we're doing 4, 5, 8, and 9, 12, this indeed, what was presented last week was, if going back to that March 3rd presentation, the top end of it. So renamed it in the incubator standpoint, but still very much one that is about applied, and not only it's beyond STEM with business and medicine and art. K4, what I just left at the library was 3D printed hands printed by 4th graders being assembled by my 2nd grader tonight. We talk about STEM. Dr. Matthews and I went to a particular school district and they purchased Project Lead the Way. So that's a canned STEM curriculum and project that you can have out there. I believe that our kids are getting far more authentic exposure to STEM, especially K4 when we look at what we're doing with our Curiosity kits in our libraries and what I saw over in our own community library. If what the board is interested in is an articulation of all those pieces, we can link it to the math that we have and what our kids are doing there. Science, again, Dr. Matthews, you were with parents there. We're leading the county again 3 years in a row on our science instruction, our math instruction, what we're doing from an altruistic sense and putting that in there. People can say they have a STEM curriculum and they could buy Project Lead the Way, or they could have a STEM building, okay? So I guess people could hang their hat on that and say this is what we have. What we have is a broad experience that kids are doing on a daily basis and engaging in. And I'm happy to get with you or Dr. Matthews or the board, find a way to package that. But I would say it's very visible in what we have in our line curriculum and Atlas, and I would say the success of it is very visible in our performance.
So that is my concern, right? I know that we probably are doing this already. We have pieces of this up and down all of our schools. We just don't have a message wrapped around it right now. So if I have a parent coming up to me and asking me, you know, what is your message and what is your story around STEM, I really don't have an elevator pitch to give them because we don't have anything packaged yet. And I think we're close. We just got to do the work to kind of close the loop there.
All right. Any additional, Mrs. Lubinski?
Just Thomas Friedman is a highly respected economist. He wrote the book The World is Flat. He also wrote the book That Used to Be Us, talking about how the United States used to be on the forefront, a cutting edge in terms of invention and just new opportunities and seeking opportunities. And he talks about how this next generation is going to be competitive in a world of globalization, and really points out the importance of us having that inventive entrepreneurial spirit and nurturing it in the generation. So I think the incubator is a wonderful opportunity to take a step in that direction. That being said, this, of any of the 6 classes, I would expect a report back after the first year in terms of what we learned about it, how we would tweak it to improve it going forward, what it actually cost us. But I go back to, we want to give students opportunities. And as long as we give them opportunities, but we monitor those opportunities with good business analysis and being prudent with how we're spending our dollars, I think that then it's a smart thing to move forward with. So I am really excited about this opportunity for our students.
All right. Additional comments, questions? All right. Mr. Cook.
My concern on this is the intellectual properties, and I liken this to a university and somebody doing research. And brought this up last week, and with all due respect, Dr. Weber, the board has a policy on intellectual properties as it belongs to teachers. I think we're a little premature in presenting this course until we get a policy on intellectual properties regarding the students. If students need funding or get donations or get grants to do some of this work, then that's, you know, I don't believe that could go directly to them, or I do believe it has to go through the school. We need these policies in place before I think we can step forward with this. So at this point, I would rather wait on this course until we have those policies in place one way or another.
And for clarity, that policy is on intellectual property of students. And meaning if a student within the incubator class came up with a concept or idea, just trying to achieve clarity here in my own mind. So was the piece then that the district would have a policy on the district's ownership of that concept, idea, product?
The policy could state that it's all the students' ownership. I would like to see the policy, see what the board comes up with as a whole for the policy, and what legal would recommend on that.
Okay. Thank you. That's the clarity I needed.
Okay. Mrs. Blazinski?
I certainly think this is something we could call Lusk Albertson, like very soon. I wish we would have known that this was a concern prior to taking the vote, but since they're going to be our new policy provider, I think we could easily work with them to have something in place long before this class goes live in September.
And for the record, I think Mr. Cook brought this up at last meeting, so this is
I
not the first time
apologize.
Yeah.
My apology.
I think he framed it in terms of who would be the intellectual property.
I don't recall him saying that we didn't have the policy. I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anybody with that comment.
Okay.
I also think that I know some other school districts have, with their middle years program, they do the personal project, and I feel like the incubator class is very similar to the personal project, so you might want to reach out to some of the other districts that are doing this kind of program.
See what their policies are.
Yes.
That's a great idea. Okay. Well, without any further
One
discussion.
last thought, Mr. Cook.
Okay, sorry.
One last thought. You know, the intellectual properties aside, you know, it's a great idea. I remember college courses that I took on, you know, projects and how to run projects and how to develop a product from beginning to end. You know, teaming up with the patent office, you know, it's all great stuff. Have we considered making it, rather than a high school course, making it a community education course so that the entire community could be involved in it?
It clearly, I think, might be an outgrowth of this. This is specifically for the high school students at this point.
That's interesting. No, we hadn't considered that. Thank you.
All right. There's no additional comments or questions. All those in favor of approving the incubator course, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
No.
Motion carries 5-2. The next item on our action item is our communication camp field trip. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Michael Ziegler, a high school communication camp sponsor, is requesting an overnight trip to the Howell Nature Center. This trip will provide an opportunity for 60 students to more effectively develop and maintain relationships. The program focuses on human relations while promoting cultural acceptance, appreciation, and understanding. During this 2.5-day retreat, students will participate in a highly disciplined small group session where they will learn about themselves, how to listen, how to express themselves, and will learn to celebrate their similarities and differences. Through their participation, students will gain leadership skills to create meaningful relationships with people in their daily lives. Students will stay overnight in a dorm setting at the Howell Nature Center. Girls and boys will stay in separate lodges chaperoned by 15 Novi High School staff members. The program is modeled after the communication camp that Harrison High School has participated in for the past 10 years. The cost of the trip will be approximately $200 per person, which covers 2 nights of lodging, all food, transportation, and a t-shirt. Students will miss school on Thursday, February 8th, and Friday, February 9th. The camp will enable students to gain leadership skills to create meaningful relationships with people in their daily lives. This came before the board for information and discussion on December 7th, and comes back to the board tonight for approval. And if you have questions, Dr. Weber, again, is here to answer those.
All right. I would entertain a motion.
I move that the Novi Community Schools Board of Education approve the communication camp to Howell Nature Center on February 7th through 9th, 2018.
All right. It's been moved by Mrs. Stevenson and supported by Mrs. Hood. Is there discussion? Mr. O'Connor?
So I listened to the discussion remotely last week at the December 7th meeting, and I must tell you I was stunned. I felt like I was sitting there like it was Groundhog's Day. 2 years ago, this proposal came before the board and it was turned down. And it was turned down because of two very major flaws in the design of the program. Number one, there was a major concern about the number of teachers that are outside of the classroom during this time and the cost involved with that for only 60 kids. And the other design flaw was the fact that this program was limited to only 60 kids. And what was the cascade strategy to bring that information back to make sure that other kids within a 2,400 populated high school get a piece of this learning process? And the discussion last week was literally the same as 2 years ago when this board turned it down. I'm just stunned and disappointed by the inflexibility of the design of this program. The design's there, the issues are still there. They haven't been addressed, so I'm not supporting the program.
Additional comments or questions from the board? Mr. Dodd?
Yeah, again, just repeating what I said last week. I have a hard time supporting seeing 60 teachers out of the classroom for 2 full days to take 60 kids on this field trip, and again, 15 teachers, 60 kids. And again, I'm not making any value judgments on this program. I just think that that's a big disruption for all the students that are staying back and having to have subs for those 2 particular days. Now, I also want to remind the board, as we continue looking through our governance document, one of the things that we committed to doing is making decisions in the context of what's best for all students in the district. I do not think that this is in the best interest for all, in the best interest of all students in our district. So, again, I'm going to be voting this down today.
I have a question. It states that there are 15 high school staff members. So, what does that constitute? Does that constitute only teachers, or does that constitute? It could be a paraprofessional. It could be a hall monitor, social worker, counselor.
They are all professional staff. It will be a mix of teachers, social workers, counselors.
Thank you.
Mrs. Klubzinski.
Yeah, I share the concerns about the subs and the number of students. I appreciate receiving the itinerary that I asked for. The one thing, when I looked at the itinerary, it says communication training session 1, communication training session 2, communication training session 3. So I see that the time is well spent, but it doesn't help me understand what we're covering in terms of the curriculum. I would have liked to have seen more depth, but I realize in a week that that's a challenge to do. I am willing to support it for 1 year, but what I would like to see is this program move to August before school starts, using the staff, paying them a stipend, and then you have 60 leaders that you've trained in communication up and running at the beginning of a school year and implementing what they've learned for a whole year instead of this jumping in February. If it can't be 3 days in August, then I would suggest 3 Saturdays. And the teachers, I know that's asking personal time, but if they're so passionate about the value of this for our student population, then I think that the sacrifice of either doing it before school starts or on Saturdays, as opposed to taking staff out and students out of classes. But I see the value in it. I'm optimistic that maybe some of us could get out and observe. I don't know about privacy, but it would help me understand better the process. I know the value in retreats and the opportunities for bonding and whatever. I support that. But anyway, I'm going to go for it for 1 year, but I need to see changes in the way it's modeled.
I would say that part of what you just said would lead me to believe that you've bugged my office and listened to a conversation that Melissa Matson and I had. I'll sweep it for bugs after.
Maybe
but
it should be like Minds.
one of the pieces that we talked about, because she and I talked, Melissa was here last Thursday for the board meeting as well, so Friday we processed comments that board members had made and things like that. And one of the pieces that we talked about was really band does band camp in the summer. Athletic teams go ahead and they start their practices in August. And one of the pieces that does make a lot of sense, because a couple different things there, not only could it be 60, but you could foreseeably see more kids. If you had enough lead time, taking a couple days off from work, if kids had months to talk to their bosses and whatnot about what they could do, would make sense as well. So, part of the great thing about having good, maturely direct conversations with each other is the fact that, while we might not always completely see eye to eye on things, I can assure you that I always take value away from the conversations. And one of the examples was that Friday in my office where we were both talking about it. And as we thought about this, like, wait a second, there are other ways to go about doing this. And I think that Mr. Ziegler made a comment last week that made sense. Had we been doing this for a couple of years, kind of found that out, found our way with it a little bit, perhaps that could be something as well. Comment?
No, I thought that was the challenge 2 years ago when we turned this down. That's exactly. Now we're talking about different ideas and how to design and
Well,
let's do it this way. And yet the board is being asked to approve this now, and it's the same design as 2 years ago with those flaws, in my opinion. This is great that we're doing the brainstorming to design that to make it work in the right way.
Well, remembering 2 years ago...
Then why is it coming before us now in this form?
Remembering 2 years ago, one of the things as well was we were asked, I believe, for a program evaluation for a field trip, which in my 6 years I'd never been asked for that. So when that was asked that night, trying to figure out, okay, so this is a field trip, never been asked for such a thing before, where were we going with that? And then really we put it on the back burner and left it there. This came up from a conversation that another and a different teacher wanted to go ahead and take this forward. So it wasn't something after the board had voted that I've been consciously looking at out of my office. This was something brought to us by high school staff. So.
Additional comments or questions, Mr. Cook?
Yeah. To me, 15 teachers out for 2.5% of the population of students, and then when asked when they come back, how's it going to propagate through the rest of the students, and we were just, the statement was they will be given exercises to accomplish that. I guess I should have asked previously, but I'd like to see what some of those exercises might be, and in order to get this to spread to more than 2.5% of the population. This is an awful big expense for that amount. And to Mrs. Glebzinski's point, it'd be great if we could do it before school year. I guess I don't want to wait. I'd rather see it postponed from February to August, so it can happen outside the school year. So we're not missing class time with teachers. Also, to your point, to be able to include more students. It's just, for right now, I see going forward in February, and then things just continuing the same. So right now, I won't support it unless it goes to August.
Additional comments or questions? Dr. Matthews.
The communication camp is modeled after a successful program over at Harrison High School, and they clearly have had positive experiences with it for a number of years. The comments of the board tonight, I think, provide us with some incentive to help the high school staff kind of reframe this as well. But I do think launching it in February would provide us with a strong foundation to, as those kids come back into the school, to encourage students to participate in August as we move forward. And so I would encourage the board to support this tonight, and as we do, we would continue to look for ways to make this kind of a Novi program as we move forward.
I have a question.
Mrs. Stevenson?
Is it just for 9th through 11th grade because the seniors would be gone? And then would you consider possibly having some of your upcoming freshmen attend, because that would be beneficial because there'll be 9th graders in the fall?
12th graders went, I believe, 2 years ago in it. Hadn't thought of the 8th grade potential for that as far as rising ninth graders. Is that what you're saying? As they
Yes.
come in? So thank you for that. But
There
12th
is
graders
senior
did
participation.
Pardon me?
There has been senior participation.
Yes.
I was just going to say, I think there were a limited number of seniors. I think they talked
They
about
try to
that.
balance
a lot
it
of
out.
them, a lot of them were juniors, and a
Yep.
few sophomores the first time around. All right.
Request roll call vote on this one, please.
Oh, certainly. So you will be doing that.
Yeah.
Are we ready to take the vote? I agree with the comments. I appreciate the feedback and the dialogue that we've had here, certainly around it. I do see value in it. I would like to strongly encourage some of the social workers and counselors and the non-in-classroom staff that they would be encouraged to be some of the leaders on this program for a couple reasons. One, experience, and the professional skill that they would have in handling some of the sensitive things that might come up. And two, obviously it keeps more teachers in the classroom. So anything that we can do to encourage that. I would certainly agree that having it be a summertime program makes a lot of sense, and would like to see that be a piece of this going forward. I do appreciate Mr. Ziegler had a lot of feedback for us. I think last time this is his first time organizing that, so I think we've given him a lot of food for thought, which I think will be helpful. So I am supporting it for this year, but would certainly appreciate hearing back about this, and then what is the intention going forward should this prove successful. And how that filters out to the school, I think, is also something we should be watching really carefully, whether the choices those kids are making are different as a result of it, and some of that kind of stuff. So I will be supporting it for those reasons. So I will ask Mr. Mena for a roll call vote at this time. Mr. Mena, all those in favor, please say aye. To Mr. Mena.
Yep. Trustee Cook?
No.
Trustee Glebzinski?
Yes.
Trustee Hood?
Yes.
Trustee Mena, no. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor?
No.
Trustee Stevenson?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-3. Next, we come to the Oakland County School Boards Association proposed bylaw changes. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. The Oakland County School Board Association has been in the process of attaining a 501c4 status for their organization. This approval from the IRS was received September 20th of 2017. This then required them to update their bylaws to the new organization status. You have proposed bylaws for OCSBA that will be voted on January 24th, 2018. OCSBA asked that each member district Board of Education put a vote for these bylaws. At the January 24th, 2018 OCSBA dinner meeting, each member district will have one vote. You have an overview of some of the proposed changes there. And this came before the board for information discussion on December 7th. And I know Mr. O'Connor has lots of experience with this, and so he would be the resource person for this information.
All right.
I really don't want to reiterate unless people didn't hear me remotely last time. But we've been through it, we've looked at it, and we basically adjusted the bylaws so that we can become a 501c4 for advocacy as well as education purposes.
All right, well, I would entertain a motion on this. Mr. Mena?
I move that the board approve the Oakland County School Board's bylaws as presented.
I'll support.
It's been moved by Mr. Mena and supported by Mr. O'Connor. Is there any additional questions or comments about this? Mr. Cook?
Mr. O'Connor, I see that their legislative priorities had 4 guiding principles. Oh, I was missing the bottom one, for local control. That is the very main one that I think has been spoken from the OCSB a number of years, and it's one that whenever we go in front of the legislators, we really need to push.
Absolutely. When the legislative committee developed those, they really are 4 equal pillars. Local control happens to be at the bottom only because as we were going through the discussion, obviously, the financial concerns and how Lansing, doesn't always support us the way we'd like them to from a financial standpoint. That became the first bullet, but all 4 pillars are equal.
I guess I'd like to see a 5th one in there, equity. Between public and private.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It has been moved and supported. I appreciate your service, Mr. O'Connor, on behalf of this board for for serving on that board and for being the expert in this area and your feedback on it. If there is no additional questions, I will call the question. All those in favor of supporting the proposed bylaw changes to the OCSBA, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have legal representation for the board. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. At the January 10th, 2017 organizational meeting, the board voted to retain Troon Law Firm to represent the district. At that time, some of the board expressed a desire to have a separate counsel for the board. The board took action at the regular meeting on October 5th, 2017 and changed policy number 0172 to state the Board of Education may employ attorneys as opposed to singular attorney to represent the school district or board. The board is taking action tonight on whether or not to pursue counsel for the board separate from the district. We have two recommendations that are presented for the board. The first one reads, the Novi Community School District Board of Education, with the change in bylaw 0172 that allows the board to use multiple attorneys, agrees to identify a separate attorney for the Board of Education. Recommendation 2 is the Novi Community School District Board of Education, with the change in bylaw 0172 that allows for the board to use multiple attorneys, will not move at this time to identify a separate attorney for the Board of Education. It is up to the board to decide on which, if any, either of those recommendations the board wants to approve this evening.
All right, I entertain a motion.
So I would like to make a motion to support recommendation number 1, that in the best interest of the Novi Community School District Board of Education, with the change in bylaw 0172 that allows the board to use multiple attorneys, that it agrees to identify a separate attorney for the Board of Education.
Support.
Then moved by Mr. O'Connor and supported by Mr. Mena. Is there a discussion on this item? Mr. Cook.
I guess I'd like to use tonight as an example, the intellectual properties. Les Galberson is not the school district's attorney. The first question needs to be posed to Troon, what we should do as far as legally intellectual properties. Once they give us an opinion, we can make our judgment off of that, and then ask Les Galberson to write us a parliament on it.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, if we want to go directly to Les Galberson, that's a separate attorney. This is a perfect example of, where we could do something like that. Go directly to Les Galberson instead of Troon.
Can I?
Yes, Ms.
As a point of clarification, I was talking about whether or not they'd already created a policy regarding this. I wasn't thinking about them giving us a legal opinion. I just want to clarify.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. O'Connor and supported by Mr. Mena. All those in favor of recommendation 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Aye. Motion fails 3 to 4. Entertain another motion if the board's pleasure. Mrs. Klubzinski.
I move recommendation 2, the Novi Community School District Board of Education, with the change in bylaw 0172 that allows the board to use multiple attorneys, will not move at this time to identify a separate attorney for the Board of Education.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Klubzinski and supported by Mrs. Stevenson. There is no additional comments. I would call the question. All those in favor of supporting recommendation number 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4 to 3. All right. And next we have, I believe, our superintendent. No, we have a.
There is no information discussion, so we would move to comments from the audience.
This is our next opportunity for comments from the audience, but everyone stayed home on this cold, snowy day, it appears. So we will move on to superintendent's report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. This week was an interesting week in terms of weather. On Wednesday, we knew that a storm was coming, but we felt confident that it was important to bring our students to school that day. The snow came as predicted, and we then made the decision to dismiss high school students early and begin a rolling process across the district so that our late elementary students would not be at school well past the end of their day. We left care open at each of our elementary schools so that parents who had students in care could make their way safely to school. Days like Wednesday were disruptive, but I was in Village Oaks on Wednesday afternoon and can report confidently that learning was taking place and that students and teachers were focused during the day, although there was a little bit of excitement about the snow. Today, Thursday, was a snow day in our district. I would like to thank our maintenance department and EnviroClean for the work that they did today. While most of us had a day off from work. Our maintenance department in EnviroClean spent most of today clearing parking lots and sidewalks and getting our district ready for tomorrow. Both of those teams worked when most of us did not so that we could be ready for school tomorrow, and I would like to thank them for their efforts today. Over the past few weeks, members of the board, one of our teachers and I have met with Representative Crawford and Senator Kowal to continue our dialogue about school-related legislation. I would like to thank Representative Crawford and Senator Kowal for coming to the district to engage in conversations with us about these important issues. And finally, I would like to wish everyone a joyous holiday season. Our district continues to provide great opportunities for students and families, and I look forward to the start of 2018 and continuing to do great things for our community. And that's my report for this evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Matthews. Next, we have our administrative reports. Mrs. Medic.
Good evening, thank you. I would just like to echo Dr. Matthews' thanks and gratitude to our crews for plowing and clearing the sidewalks. And also to add on to his comments about the early dismissal. My understanding from the Transportation Department is that it went fairly smoothly. Just a few buses were just a little bit late, but it went pretty smoothly on that end as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Kinzer.
In the last few days, I've had the opportunity to spend a significant amount of time, first at Village Oaks and then also at Novi High School. And just now that I've had the opportunity to spend a few hours in every building and department, I just wanted to share with you my impressions of the very impressive quality we have. Our students are impressive, our teachers, again, impressive, and just feel very fortunate to be part of the school district. Thank you.
Well, coming from Okemos, which also has a very good reputation, I think that's high praise indeed. Thank you. And Dr. Webb.
Thank you to the Japanese Business Society of Detroit. This week they had, every year they give away grants to local organizations. This year $107,000 was given by JBSD to various organizations. We received $4,500 from JBSD, which we'll use for translation services, as well as Ringo Kai School applied for a grant, which they received, and they're going to give money directly to Novi Meadows and Novi High School as a token of their gratitude for using their buildings above and beyond what they pay into it. And they've given in the last 25 years over $2 million in such grants. So thank you. They've been a great partner with our community school district and our community. We had the pleasure of hanging out with Ms. Mercer and the Cat's Eye News group earlier this week. Neat group of kids, and the future's all right. Enable Handtastic project from the library tonight was over there. The goal was 200 hands to be built by our community members. These hands were printed in places like Parkview Elementary School in 4th grade classrooms, Novi Woods in 4th grade classrooms. So kids really engaging with STEM in a way that's very, very authentic, and then having a community build over there. So thank you to Julie Farkas, and if any of you have worked with Julie Farkas, she's just lights out. She really fostered this with Fenton Lawler in their work there. Fenton's a student of ours. Then finally, Chibitronics, 4th graders. Each 4th grader in our district is going to learn about circuitry through art class with a platform or a product called Chibitronics, which actually uses copper tape and light-emitting diodes. And kids will learn about things like parallel circuits, but doing so in their art classes. And why 4th grade? Because 4th grade is also where we start to teach kids about circuits and how they work in our curriculum. So the mesh there is, to Mr. Mena's point, absolutely finding a way to let more of our parents know that these things are going on is important. But I would say the innovation that comes from our kids learning these concepts in an art class, each kid doing it, transferring to the regular classroom, the science classroom, is exactly what we need to do more of, so we can see kids doing things like building hands or circuits or art and so on. So thank you very much for the board support and communication tonight and the conversations as well as the community. Have a nice night.
Terrific. Next we have our committee reports. Have we had any committee meetings?
Last week?
I think.
We have capital projects.
Oh, excuse me, Mr.
We
Mena.
did have a capital projects meeting. We I think there's a presentation coming to the board probably in January where we're going to be discussing sort of a follow-up status on our bond and where we're at today. The community was very generous, passing a bond a few years back that allowed us to do many improvements in the district. And I believe Ms. Minnick will be presenting to us with an update on that.
So therein lies the committee reports. Next is board communication. Do you have any communication from fellow board members? I know it's been busy with going to things, but Dr. Matthews, you touched on the meetings with our representative and our senator, and I want to say thank you to those board members that were able to make it, and also to both Mrs. Crawford and to Mr. Kowal as well. And we did emphasize that local control, I think, with them, and both of them were really interested in engaging in dialogue with the board, so I think that's really important, and certainly gave us their phone numbers, which I've asked Dr. Matthews to share them with the rest of the board. So if there are things that come up that you feel led to contact your senator or your legislator, you can have them on speed dial, or you can reach out to them, and they said that is really the most effective way to communicate, as opposed to form letters or some of those other things. Evocate, I think, or there's some other things out there that I know I've used in the past for different things, not all education related, but some other things as well. So, but those are not considered quite as valuable as the dialogue. So, going back to all of that communication and the importance of us doing that as things come up, so that they know where we stand on things. Without any further board communication, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved by Mr. Mena.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Cook. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great holiday.